Hey guys, what's going on? Jimmy Cosenza here. I wanted to do a live tonight on my rat of the month, June. We're going to talk about a government informant, Frank Lefty Rosenthal. He was born in June 1929 and passed away in 2008. I'm working on some new content. My next show, I'm going to talk about 10 mistakes that the Chicago outfit made. 10 big mistakes, in my opinion, that decimated the Chicago outfit. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to try to do some interviews with some of the sons, nephews, grandkids, neighbors, friends, people that I know that grew up with these guys. Some of them are a little reluctant to go live, but some of them, they do want to tell their story. Let's check out some of the comments here. Single and looking, what's going on? Thanks for tuning back in. I don't usually do live, so bear with me. Today we're going to talk about my rat of the month. Another informant of the Chicago outfit was this guy here, Lefty Rosenthal. This is an actual booking photo of him when he got pinched, probably sometime in the 70s out in Nevada. We all know the Chicago outfit sent Lefty out there to be their top bookmaker. He was headquarters on the Stardust Hotel, and I think he had some influence on the 3 other hotels, but his job was to basically control the skim, the illegal skim. This guy was the GOAT of bookmakers, right? The Michael Jordan. Till the day he passed away in his senior years, he was still doing a little booking. We all remember him from Robert De Niro. It was called Ace. But what a lot of the Chicago outfit bosses didn't know is that Lefty Rosenthal was an informant. Him, along with his wife, were giving the FBI critical information on past, present, and future activities, not only on Tony Spot from the Chicago outfit, but Kansas City and some of the other crime families. He was living a double life, and as we all know, it's a very dangerous life to live. Let's read a couple comments. Rick Slick, what's going on? Yeah, single and looking. Good question. I don't think Nicky would ever do a live interview. I have not seen him in many years, but I would love to get him on. That would be ideal. If he's a fan of my channel, I'll definitely ask him or reach out to him somehow. But if he's a hater and he doesn't like my channel, then obviously he wouldn't be interested in doing it. But I'm working on maybe someone like Ronnie Jarrett Jr. I'd like to get him on here to tell his story. I mean, his father was killed a block across the street from his home. I'd like to give Kurt Calabrese, I'd like to get him on here and tell untold stories in his close relationship with Nick Calabrese. I'd like to get my guy Paulie C on here. Gigi from Burr Ridge. I'd like to do an interview with him. But these guys are a little reluctant. And unfortunately, there's not too many mob trials left. That's why there's not a whole lot to report on anymore. Years ago, in the early 1990s to the mid-2000s, I was very fortunate. I got a chance to attend the biggest federal trials in Chicago. But we'll get back into it. If you guys have any questions why I'm doing this live, let me know. If you send me your email, I could send you a link and you guys can join. Okay, we could start doing that. If not tonight, we could do it another night. But I'm learning how to do that as well. Thanks a lot, Rob. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. So again, tonight we're talking about my rat of the month, June. That's Lefty Rosenthal. Not only was he the biggest bookie in the country, bringing in millions of dollars for the Chicago outfit, he was also an undercover, or not undercover, he was a government informant. So Lefty, right, he had it all. He had the backing of the Chicago mob. He was making millions of dollars. He was connected with all the politicians, all the VIPs, all those people in Hollywood. And then he fell in love. I mean, you can't blame the guy. But Lefty wasn't the only one in love with this woman. As we all know, just based on the movie Casino, the type of relationship that they had. And then sure enough, it was just a matter of time where Tony Spilotro started sleeping, fucking around with Lefty's wife. In the Chicago mob, in La Cosa Nostra, that's one of the biggest rules. You cannot mess with another guy's wife. His Guma's different. When Joey Aiuppa, boss of the Chicago outfit, confirmed that Tony Spilotro was fucking the Jew's wife, according to Nick Calabrese, his testimony during the family secrets trial, Aiuppa was so upset, he was foaming at the mouth. He was livid. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. By Tony Spilotro, who knew better, fucking around with Jerry, Lefty's wife. That was a nail in his coffin. Now, as I talked about in other episodes I did about the Spilotro brothers, there were several reasons they killed the Spilotro brothers. You guys could check that out in some of my previous videos. Now here, years ago, they had a black book. If your name was in this black book, you were barred from every hotel, casino, or not every casino in Las Vegas. Sure enough, Lefty Rosenthal and Tony Spilotro, both of them ended up in the black book. This is an actual photo. You could probably see this at the Mob Museum. By the way, the Mob Museum is definitely worth the price of admission. It's very, very interesting. When I went there, half the basement was all about the Grand Avenue crew. So I highly recommend it. Now they have speakers, etc. But anyways, this is when the Chicago outfit bosses should have brought Tony Spilotro home and replaced him with somebody else, like Donald Angelini or Dominic Large Cortina. Very capable men, experts in bookmaking, listens to their superiors, keeps things low. As soon as Tony Spilotro and Lefty got in the black book, they both should have been replaced. Think about that. What do you guys think? Let me see if I got any comments here. If you guys got any questions, about Chicago outfit, let me know. You guys ever want to do a tour of the Grand Avenue neighborhood where I live, the Taylor Street neighborhood, or Bridgeport? All right. But we'll get back to my rat of the month, if you will. A government informant. This man was living the double life. Now, Lefty, rather than keep a low profile, he was pissed that he was banned and blacklisted from the hotels. So he started his own talk show, started going live and was talking to the press and to the media and was raging and livid and pissed off How dare they blackball him, and he made a big ruckus out of this. Meanwhile, the outfit bosses in Chicago, Kansas City, were getting a little sick and tired of Lefty's bullshit. They were tired. They were livid that he had a talk show and very upset with him. But Lefty didn't care. He didn't back down. As I mentioned before, Chicago outfit controlled 4 mobbed-up hotel casinos. During the strawman indictment, the government was able to prove that Joey Upa, Jack Cerrone, Joe Lombardo, Tony Spilatro, I think it was one of the guys from Kansas City, one of the guys from Milwaukee, Angelo Petria, all were convicted from skimming 4 hotels in Nevada. Fast forward, 80s. They finally found out that Lefty Rosenthal was indeed an informant. With the Chicago outfit's permission, it was Kansas City. I think it was Nick Savella gave the green light to have Lefty killed. But I'm sure Kansas City had to get approval from Tony Arcardo, Joey Upa, Cerrone, and those guys. As we all know, based on the movie in Casino, somehow Lefty survived this car bombing. There's photos of him walking away. Looks like he was shocked. But that's the aftermath of the car bombing right there at the famous restaurant in Vegas, Tony Roma's, place I've been to several times. Hey, Jimmy, what's up? Did any outfit guys deal in drugs or did they stay away from it? Great question. Of course, some of the Chicago outfit guys, mostly the associates, dealt with drugs, cocaine, weed, pills, because there's just so much money to be made. However, the bosses did not get involved in drugs. Their main vice was bookmaking. But yeah, there was a few that definitely got involved in selling narcotics. Pretty much every single one of them got caught. One of my good friends, John Kappas, he was a Greek kid, came from a good family. He was one of the largest drug dealers on the Southwest side. He was making right around $10,000 a week, playing the role, Corvettes, Rolex watches, women, parties, this and that. He eventually got caught. His crew snitched on him. His girlfriend snitched on him. The judge gave him 40 years. He was 21 years old, got 40 years. Then the judge reduced it down to 20. He did his 20, never ratted, came home, got into the car sales business, then opened up a restaurant, and now he's out in California. But check out the story. It's an interesting story on John Kappas. Let's see here, Rob. I lived in Bridgeport my whole life. What a legendary neighborhood Bridgeport is. To me, Bridgeport, Grand Avenue, Taylor Street, these are kind of like Bath Avenue or Arthur Avenue, Italian patches in New York City. That's where I would compare them to. What do you guys think? Yeah, they were digging for the bodies on White Sox Park. I think that was, who was that? Michael Hambone, or I forget his name. That's the murder that Frank Calabrese and Nick Calabrese participated in. In court, Nick Calabrese, hang on, let me get rid of this photo. In court, Nick Calabrese testified that when they were digging that hole, he was so scared. Hang on, wait, what am I doing here? Hang on. Sorry about that. Nick Calabrese testified when they were digging that hole, he was so scared he pissed in his pants. But he was lucky he was wearing dark blue pants, so his brother didn't notice. He feared if his brother Frank noticed he pissed in his pants, he would have killed him right there. Yeah, he pissed himself. That's right, Rob. Yep. True story. I want to go by there one day. I know Junior Calabrese, when he does his tour, he takes his guests by there. I like to go by there. When I go to Bridgeport, I usually go by Angelo Petria's compound, his fortress. I go by the Italian-American Club, and then a couple of my bars and restaurants over there. But that's a great neighborhood there, man. And the rent's not too expensive either. What's going on, Noid 313? Okay. Single. Everybody's here. Cool. I'm getting ready to do a next story. I'm going to talk about 10 major mistakes that the Chicago outfit made, going back to the Sam Giancana hit up until the family secret trial. 10 major mistakes, in my opinion, is what crippled, what decimated the Chicago outfit. But let's get back to my little story. We're talking about, you can see it in my thumbnail, Lefty Rosenthal, right? The Michael Jordan, the GOAT of bookmaking. We call it BM. He was also a double agent, kind of like Dick Kane. Remember Dick Kane? He was Sam Giancana's right-hand man. He was also an informant. They found out 2-3 masked gunmen walked up to him right there on Grand in May, not too far from the Social Club, not too far from Diamato's Bakery. You can go by there today. They walked in, 2 masked gunmen. They lined everybody up, walked up to Dick Kane, and blew his head off in front of everybody. New York style, ski mask, shotguns, witnesses. They didn't give a fuck. Right there, broad daylight. Alleged shooters were Joe Lombardo, which I don't think Joey was there, Harry Allman, Marshall Cafone, and someone else I'm forgetting. One guy was on the roof as a lookout. But that's what they did to Dick Kane. They blasted him when they found out he was an informant. Let's see. Let's read a comment here. Yeah, Kid Rock. Yes, I did. I saw that place on one of those food shows on TV. I never even heard of it. I drive by there all the time. And sure enough, I used to go there, believe it or not, for breakfast. And, bro, you can make a reality show out of there. It's ghetto as fuck, but there's a lot of characters in there. The food's actually pretty decent. And it's kind of like a mini Manny's, if you will. It's a little bit of a gold mine. I just don't understand why they open so early and close so early. I mean, by 2:00, the place is closed. But, yeah, I've been there, Kid Rock. What a lot of characters there, man. Pretty funny. You guys check it out. Moons. It's a little Jewish Italian deli right there in the hood, just west of the United Center. Yeah, they're corned beef. I'm not a fan of corned beef, Kid Rock, but it's sliced real thin, and it's some of the best, just like Manny's. That's funny, man. The Moon. One day I'll do a list of all my favorite restaurants and bars. Lately, I've been hanging out at Tefano's. All right, let's see. So now here's the guy. A lot of people thought Tony Spilotro or Joe Lombardo or Iupa gave the green light to kill Lefty Rosenthal because he was under the Chicago outfit. But it was actually Nick Savella, a very dangerous man, a powerful man, one of the richest, most dangerous, most powerful men in the country, good friends with Joey Iupa and very good friends with JB. But it was Nick Savella that had Lefty Rosenthal blown to pieces because he was an informant. Now, one of the reasons Lefty Rosenthal and Tony Spilotro, there was a lot of bodies, right, that they buried in the desert. A lot of the guys that were involved, victims, ended up killed or jail. Joey Upa went to prison in his 70s. Joe Lombardo, Jack Cerrone, Angela Petria, Kansas City. This was the start of the downfall of the Chicago outfit. You either ended up in jail or dead. Lefty, though, after he survived this car bombing, Lefty retired down to Florida. He was Boca Raton, the Miami area. He had a lot of money. He had his health. And rumor had it that he started bookmaking again, obviously on a smaller scale. Now, I heard from one of my friends who grew up with Joe Lombardo, who grew up in the Grand Avenue patch. She was asked to keep her eyes on Lefty. So even though Lefty was retired down in Florida and most of his allies, ops, cronies, friends were either dead or in jail, Chicago outfit was still keeping a very close eye on him. Sadly, though, October 13th, 2008, Lefty Rosenthal passed away. He was actually born in Chicago to a Jewish family, right, on the west side. And you're talking the number one sports bettor, odds maker, handicapper. I think he created the very first sports book in Las Vegas. Ran the Stardust with an iron fist. He was actually the CEO of the Argent Agent Corporation, run by Alan Glick. That assassination attempt was in 1982. We all know what happened to Jerry, his girlfriend, his wife, this beautiful woman here. They found her at a rundown hotel on Sunset Strip in Hollywood, California. She hooked up with a biker gang and OD'd. Some people think that she was killed. The reason they think that, Jerry and her husband were both government informants. I wonder if Tony Spilotro knew that. I wonder if the outfit knew before the Kansas City mob knew. I wonder why the Chicago outfit didn't take care of Lefty. But Jerry and Lefty are very lucky. They didn't end up in the desert like a lot of other people. Let's see. Let's read a couple comments. Dan, thanks a lot. $4.99. I appreciate that, man. You let me know your address. I'm going to send you a nice shirt. I got a couple cool mob shirts. If you're ever in Chicago, want to do a tour, let me know. How about Lake Mead? Exactly. That's what I was talking about. How many bodies have washed ashore in Lake Mead, right? Some of them found in drums. That'd be a good show for a good story for another show. Slick Rick. Yeah, absolutely. The West Coast families, California, Arizona, Chicago outfit definitely had sleepers. Men that were born and raised and connected to Chicago that relocated and moved out west to get away from problems they were having in Chicago and obviously to take advantage of that beautiful weather. But you had men like Joey Hansen. I think he lived somewhere in California. He would drive down to Arizona, down in Nevada. He was good friends with Tony Spilotro. He was an alleged killer. You had Paul Shiro, the Indian. He was the lookout on the Emo Vachi hit. But it's amazing, man. All the murders committed by the Chicago outfit out west. That's why the Las Vegas, Dade County, the FBI were all over Lefty, Tony Spilotro, Frankie Collada, the Hole in the Wall gang. That was bringing a lot of heat to the Chicago outfit. And keep in mind, Chicago outfit had a lot of couriers, men and women. They would send up to Vegas. They would get everything would be comped. Dinners. They would give a tab to gamble with, a marker. They were free tickets to the shows. Pretty much a comp vacation for them and their wife or Guma. And then they would, mobbed up guys at the casino would give them cash, sometimes duffel bags, suitcases, all kinds of different creative ways where they would smuggle the cash from Nevada back home to Chicago outfit bosses. So that's what they would do. They would use several friends and associates, fly them out to Vegas, comp their trips, and send them back with cash. They would even use old ladies to throw off some of the agents. Again, these guys had a beautiful thing. If it wasn't for Tony Spilotro and Lefty Rosenthal being an informant, I think the Chicago outfit would still have a say-so in Las Vegas today, I think they would still have some influence. Let's see. Yeah, that's right, Kid Rock. They found a lot of bodies out there in Lake Mead. Heavy drought. Yep. Lake County, great question. Absolutely. Gambling mostly out there. Back then, they had bosses like, what was his name? Joe Amata, obviously Sally D, the old Sally D. That was the outfit's biggest racket by far, was bookmaking. Now, the government controls bookmaking. What do you guys think? Coming up, I think it's June 19th tomorrow. I might do a short story on Sam Giancana, right? They just did Chuck Gowdy did a story saying that they believe, the FBI agents believe, that it was Tony Arcardo himself that killed Sam Giancana. Some people believe it, some people don't. I don't know if you guys are following the Karen Reed trial, but she was acquitted on all 3 charges. Me personally, I think she was guilty, but there was definitely reasonable doubt. But let's do a real quick recap, okay, about Lefty. Here's a mugshot of him when he took a pinch, a gambling pinch, early 70s. Chicago mob sends him out to Las Vegas. He plants his flag at the Stardust Hotel. It's a very popular hotel for a lot of Chicagoans. And I'm sure he had influence on the 3 other mobbed up hotels as well. All he had to do was control the skim. Just like in the movie Casino, one of my favorite movies, they had it pretty much spot on, with the exception of the ending. At the end, when the Spilotro brothers were brutally beat with a bat in the cornfields, that part wasn't true. What nobody knew up until 2005 was that the Spilotro brothers were lured to a house in Bensonville. That's a suburb of Chicago, right outside O'Hare. They were brutally beaten and stomped to death. Then they were driven out to Northwest Indiana and buried. But that movie was right on. Here's Lefty Rosenthal giving a speech in front of the hearing, complaining that he was blacklisted. We talked about him and his wife. A lot of people didn't know his wife was a government informant as well. Lefty, he was pussy whipped. It was quite obvious, just like in the movie Casino. She pretty much drained him, probably a couple million. She slept around, got hooked on drugs. Sadly, she OD'd at some hotel in Hollywood, California. Allegedly, Lefty, as we all know, here's a beautiful picture of her here. I could kind of see why Lefty and Tony Spilotro would crush on her. Tony Spilotro, this was probably the biggest mistake he made. He was married. I'm sure he had other gumas, but when he fucked around with the Jew's wife and it got back to the boss of Chicago, he knew he fucked up. He knew he was in trouble. And I always wondered what Tony Spilotro, what must have been going through his head on that short car ride from his house to that house in Bensonville. When him and his brother walked down the basement stairs, I can't even imagine what was going through Tony Spilotro's head. I'm sure he was shaking in his boots, especially when he saw his brother get strangled in front of him. Tony Spilotro asked to say a prayer. That prayer was denied, and he was brutally beaten, stomped to death. As I said, not only Tony Spilotro, Lefty Rosenthal, other Chicago outfit guys, associates, guys from New York City, Philadelphia, were all in the black book. They were not allowed in any casinos in Las Vegas. Talked about Lefty doing his show. Once the Chicago outfit bosses saw him doing live shows, that was probably another reason why they allowed the Kansas City mob to take him out. Again, they controlled everything, right? All the best restaurants, all the best nightclubs, all the best entertainers, all the cash, right? All the people, all the power. Ask anybody that is a local in Las Vegas, every single one of them today will tell you that Las Vegas was much better when the mob controlled it. Just like New York City, Philly, Chicago, our cities were much better when organized crime was involved. As crazy as that sounds. Here's the explosion, right? Somehow Lefty survived a brutal explosion. This reminds me of the Michael Cagnoni hit, a trucking executive in Chicago that wasn't playing ball with Joe Ferriola. Nicky Calabrese testified that the crew had a hell of a time killing Michael Cagnoni. They eventually decided to go with a car bomb. Also reminds me of Frankie DeChico. After Big Paul Castellano got clipped, the Chin gave the green light to have Frankie Chico killed. I think that bomb was meant for John Gotti. But Lefty Rosenthal was very, very lucky. Nick Savella, allegedly from Kansas City, gave that hit. And as I mentioned before, a lot of the guys, Chicago outfits, made men, associates, friends, enemies, some of them ended up dead, right? Guys that deadbeat gamblers, drug dealers, drug addicts, pit bosses, bartenders, anybody that got a line got dealt with. And once those bodies started piling up, that brought a lot of heat. And that was probably the biggest reason that Chicago outfit bosses killed Tony Spilotro. He was supposed to keep his head down, keep a low profile. And the rest of them, as I mentioned, the entire hole in the wall gang was convicted. I think 2 of them might have beat the case. Strawman crippled the leadership of the Chicago outfit. The Spilotro brothers were murdered. The skim went on a little bit after that, but there's pretty much nothing left. Lefty retires down in Florida and continues bookmaking till he passed away. But God bless Lefty Rosenthal, who passed away. What was he? How old was he? I think he was 79 years old. Let's read a couple comments. You guys got any more questions? Let me know. Rusty, what's going on? Rico Benny's, yeah. What a place, right? That's the only one left, Rico Benny's, the best breaded steak sandwich. If you guys go to Rico Benny's, definitely you can drive by Angelo Petria's Fortress, and then you could see a private social club and then the big Italian-American social club. Was it on Shields or Princeton? There you go. Yep. Yeah, it's debatable, right? Arcardo would have been 70 years old. But what I learned in the Family Secrets trial, that Ronnie Jarrett and Frank Calabrese Sr. modified the gun, the murder weapon, in the Giancana hit. Then I started thinking that it could have been Tony Arcardo. I didn't really take too much weight into what Junior Calabrese said. But according to Kirk Calabrese, he told Junior in confidence, and then Junior went and posted it out in public. But it's possible Tony Arcardo did it. I was thinking more of the line like Butch Petrosella or Butch Balassi did it. What do you guys think? But yeah, that anniversary is tomorrow. Yeah, Rico Benny's. What a place, right? Parking. Yeah, let's see what this one says. Yeah. Keep in mind, Chuck Gowdy, Nick Calabrese, Junior Calabrese, none of those men were there. Chuck Gowdy, none of those guys know. That's just their opinion, along with maybe a couple FBI agents. But they do have some evidence to back that up, but we'll never know. But again, Sam Giancana got out of line. He was supposed to, like he told Tony Spilotro, keep a low profile, fly low. What does he do? He brings a lot of heat. He started rubbing elbows with all those people in Hollywood. He started pissing off the agents, becoming public enemy number one. I don't know. Let's see what this one says. Absolutely. Yeah, that anniversary is tomorrow. Yeah, Moons. What a place, huh? Yeah, I'm going to do a poll. What about Nick Calabrese? Do you guys believe his testimony? Do you believe when he says all those major heavyweights were there? I mean, he said Joe Ferriola was there, Sam Carlisi, Rocky and Felice, Jimmy Marcello, Louis Marino, DeFranco, he says, was there. Jimmy LaPetria, Faccarata. What do you think? Do you think all those men were there? A lot of people don't believe that. They think Nick said that to make his story stronger. But I believe they were there for a couple reasons. One, I think they were so pissed off at Tony Spilotro, they wanted to personally be there to get their licks in. That's just my opinion. I also know in a couple other murders, well, yeah, there was a group of heavyweights there. Carlisi, Andrew LaPetria, Nicky Calabrese, Axon Jackson, right? Look who was on that murder. You had Turk Torello, the boss of Chicago outfit, Jack Cerrone, DeStefano, Angela Petria, the Strangers in the Night murder. That was 2 murders. One of the burglars broke into Tony Ricardo's house. That murder, you had Angela Petria, you had Nick Calabrese, Frank Calabrese, Jimmy Marcello, Sam Carlisi. When they killed Nicholas DeAndrea, same thing. Carlisi, a couple other heavyweights were there. Carlisi was cracking him in the head with the butt of a shotgun. So believe it or not, yes, the Chicago outfit heavyweights, guys like Rocky and Felice, Joe Ferriola, Carlisi, these guys aren't afraid to get their hands dirty. We operate a little bit different than some of the New York, Philly, or Boston crime families. What do you guys think? Thanks for tuning in, guys. Stay tuned. I got more information, more shows I'm going to do. If you guys like my Chicago mob trial stories, hit the like button, subscribe, share with your friends. That's my rat of the month, Lefty Rosenthal, a Jew, an associated outfit, biggest bookmaker in the history of illegal sports betting, and also a government informant. He gave the authorities a who's who of the Chicago outfit, the Philadelphia mob, the Kansas City mob, the Milwaukee mob, the New York, a who's who on La Cosa Nostra across the entire country. He gave them the government information on past, present, and future activities, a wealth of information. He had to be taken out. He's lucky he lasted as long as he did. Right? I talked about that, how Chicago outfit, in my opinion, had better leadership than New York, Boston, Philly. Half the time, those guys were ratting each other out. Some of them their own friends. The other time, they were killing each other. A lot of violence. Chicago outfit had 2 types of leadership. One, a guy like Iupa Carlisi that led with force. If you got out of line, if you broke rules, if you were going to testify, no questions, they were going to have you killed. And then you had leadership like DeFranco. No more violence. Let's make money. So there's different types of leadership. But absolutely, there's differences between Chicago outfit and the New York crime families. Also, Chicago outfit wasn't as involved in drugs as New York was. Along with Detroit, Chicago and Detroit had the least amount of informants. That's a good point too. Another thing is maybe by having the older guys there, it kind of reassured Michael and Tony that the bosses were going to be there if it was a making ceremony. I'm not sure they, put their hands on the brothers. Probably, obviously, Louis Marino and Nick Calabrese did. And they had other heavyweights there. Feccarata, Jimmy LaPetria, Taco, Louis. They had plenty of guys there that are very capable. So, but regardless, they brutally beat Tony Spilotro, Michael to death. Yeah. 5 families, a lot of drama. We had one, like a fist. All right, guys, listen, I appreciate you tuning in. Have a good week. I'm going to drop a short story tomorrow on Sam Giancana. I got a show coming up. I'm going to talk about at least 7 to 10 major mistakes that Chicago outfit made. If you guys like my show, hit the like button, subscribe, share with your friends. Let me know if and when you're ever in the city of Chicago, and we will hang out. Ciao.